Have you ever felt a sudden shift in the atmosphere around you, as if something was said about you in a room you were never invited into? Lean in closely, because what I am about to reveal will make your spirit tremble. There was a phone call. It was never meant for your ears. It was whispered in low tones, carried by anxious breaths and guarded pauses. They thought you would never know. They believed you were too distracted, too tired, too unaware. But I am not bound by distance, and I am not limited by walls. I heard every word. And because I am your God, what concerns you concerns me. The call did not begin with your name, but it ended with it. At first, it was casual, strategies, concerns, veiled frustration. Then the tone shifted. Your progress unsettled them. Your peace confused them. Your resilience irritated them. How are they still standing? One voice asked. Why does everything keep working out for them? Another whispered. They tried to trace your favor as if it were a flaw. They examined your character as if it were a threat. What they did not realize is that the strength they questioned was never yours alone. It was mine, flowing through you like a river beneath the surface. In the middle of that conversation, a decision was almost made. Plans were suggested, small obstacles, subtle exclusions, carefully placed doubts. They thought if they moved quietly enough, it would go unnoticed. But I disrupted the signal. I stirred confusion among them. I caused hesitation where there was once certainty. I planted uncertainty in the very strategy designed against you. And while you were sleeping, unaware and unbothered, I was rearranging outcomes in your favor. This is why certain things that should have fallen apart did not. This is why doors that were almost shut suddenly opened again. You wondered why the atmosphere felt tense around certain people. You sensed glances, felt the weight of unspoken words. That was not paranoia, it was discernment. I was alerting your spirit without revealing the full story. I needed you focused, not fearful. Because here is the truth, what they intended to use to limit you will now be the evidence of your elevation. The very call that was meant to coordinate your restriction has become the catalyst for your acceleration. They dialed with doubt, but they unknowingly activated destiny. Listen carefully, this was not just gossip. This was a test. A spiritual audit. A measurement of how much influence you truly carry. And the fact that they had to gather and whisper means your impact is louder than you think. When people conspire quietly, it is because they cannot confront openly. When they strategize behind closed doors, it is because they cannot deny the light surrounding you. You have entered a season where your name triggers reactions in rooms you have never entered. But do not let pride rise in you. Let gratitude anchor you instead. I allowed you to sense the tension so you would lean closer to me. I allowed you to feel the shift so you would deepen your prayer. Because the next move I am making in your life will require maturity, humility, and unwavering focus. There is a blessing attached to this exposure, one you cannot yet see. I am positioning you not just to survive opposition, but to outgrow it entirely. And here is what should make you pause. The call did not end the way it began. Before they hung up, one voice said something unexpected. A doubt crept in. What if we're wrong about them? There was silence. A heavy, uncomfortable silence. Conviction entered the room. The very narrative they tried to build began to fracture. I was there, unsettling the story, rewriting the script, bending perception in your favor. You are not being targeted because you are weak. You are being discussed because you are marked. Marked for expansion. Marked for influence. Marked for a shift that others can sense but cannot control. And what you are about to witness next will prove that the conversation they thought was hidden has already begun to work for you instead of against you. Stay close. What was said after that silence changes everything. After that silence, something unexpected unfolded. The room that once echoed with strategy became heavy with hesitation. You must understand, when I enter a conversation, even uninvited, the atmosphere shifts. The confidence they carried into that call began to dissolve. One of them cleared their throat, as if trying to swallow back the weight of conviction. Another suggested they leave it alone for now. Fear does not always look like panic. Sometimes it looks like reconsideration. And that reconsideration was my doing. What you did not see was how close they were to executing their plan. Emails were drafted but never sent. Invitations were withheld but later restored. Opinions were formed but never fully voiced. I created divine interruptions. Technology glitched. Timing misaligned. Priorities shifted unexpectedly. You thought it was coincidence. It was protection. The enemy of your progress attempted to coordinate quietly, but I am the God who governs both whispers and wires. Nothing travels without passing through my awareness first. In the middle of that call, someone mentioned your past. They tried to resurrect old versions of you, to use yesterday's mistakes as today's ammunition. But they did not account for transformation. They spoke of who you were, unaware of who you have become. And as they spoke, I reminded heaven of the covenant I have with you. Your growth is not invisible. Your repentance was not unnoticed. Your private battles were not wasted. What they attempted to label as weakness, I have already redeemed as wisdom. This is why you have felt a strange calm lately. Even when tension brushed against your spirit, you did not crumble. Even when subtle shifts occurred in your environment, you did not panic. That composure is not accidental. It is evidence that I am anchoring you deeper than the waves around you. They expected you to react. They anticipated insecurity. They assumed pressure would provoke you into error. But I have been teaching you restraint. I have been training you to move with silence when others move with suspicion. And here is what should awaken your attention. The call did not remain private for long. Information travels. Energy shifts. Intentions leak. Someone who was present in that conversation began to feel uneasy afterward. Conscience is a powerful thing when I breathe upon it. That individual started observing you differently. Instead of joining the narrative, they started questioning it. Instead of reinforcing doubt, they began defending your name subtly in other spaces. You have an advocate where you least expect one. You wondered recently why a certain interaction felt warmer than usual. Why a door reopened that you thought was closing. Why someone who seemed distant suddenly offered support. That was not randomness. That was the ripple effect of a broken conspiracy. When the call ended, the plan fractured. And when the plan fractured, opportunity emerged. What was meant to isolate you is now positioning you in greater visibility. But do not misunderstand me, this is not merely about people. This is about elevation. Whenever I prepare to expand your territory, opposition often surfaces first. Not because you are failing, but because you are advancing. The resistance you sense is confirmation of movement. The discussion around your name is evidence of influence. If you were insignificant, there would be no need for secret coordination. The fact that they gathered means your impact has weight. Still, guard your heart. Do not allow suspicion to poison your peace. I did not reveal this to ignite paranoia but to strengthen your discernment. You do not need to confront anyone. You do not need to defend yourself. I am your defender. I am already restructuring narratives behind the scenes. What you must do is remain aligned with me. Continue walking with integrity. Continue moving with humility. Continue praying even when you do not see the full picture. There is something else you were never meant to know, but I will tell you now. During that call, one voice suggested removing you completely from an opportunity that is about to surface publicly. They believed excluding you would secure their advantage. But while they spoke of subtraction, I was preparing multiplication. The opportunity they tried to block is no longer the opportunity one have for you. I am upgrading it. What is coming will bypass their control entirely. Soon, you will witness a sudden shift, an invitation, a recognition, a breakthrough that feels almost too perfectly timed. When it happens, remember this moment. Remember that there was a call meant to limit you. Remember that there was a plan designed to stall you. And remember that I intervened before it could solidify. I do not expose hidden conversations to create fear. I reveal them to demonstrate my sovereignty. You are entering a season where unseen battles produce visible blessings. Where whispered doubt results in public favor. Where attempted sabotage becomes undeniable testimony. And when the next revelation surfaces, when you discover who felt convicted, who changed sides, who began quietly supporting you, you will realize that the call was not your downfall. It was the announcement of your rise. But what was spoken after the line disconnected, and who overheard the aftermath, will shock you even more. When the line disconnected, they believed the moment was sealed in secrecy. They assumed the silence that followed would bury everything that had just been spoken. But they forgot something crucial. I do not operate only within conversations, I move within consequences. The atmosphere after that call lingered. Words do not vanish when they are spoken, they vibrate. They settle into hearts. They echo in minds. And one person who participated could not shake what they felt. That individual tried to move on with their day. They scrolled through distractions. They answered other calls. They pretended nothing significant had happened. But conviction is not easily muted when I begin to press upon a conscience. The unease grew heavier. They replayed your name in their thoughts. They remembered your kindness. They recalled your consistency. Suddenly, the narrative that once sounded convincing began to feel distorted. Doubt turned inward. Not toward you, but toward the plan itself. You were never meant to know that someone almost sent you a warning message that night. They typed it. They erased it. They typed it again. Fear stopped them. Loyalty confused them. But the seed of hesitation remained. And that seed is mine. Because when I decide to protect you, I do not only block attacks, I transform participants. I turn witnesses into advocates. I turn bystanders into defenders. The same mouth that almost agreed with your exclusion will soon speak in your favor. Meanwhile, you were going about your life unaware of the spiritual tremor happening behind the scenes. You questioned small shifts. You noticed subtle changes in tone from certain people. You sensed distance from some and unexpected warmth from others. That is because alignment is rearranging itself around you. I am separating what is unstable from what is loyal. I am exposing motives without dramatic confrontations. You will not need to fight for clarity. Clarity is coming to you. In the middle of the night after that call, one of them dreamed. It was brief but unsettling. They saw you standing where they assumed you would fall. They saw doors opening for you that they thought were closing. They woke up unsettled, brushing it off as imagination. But I plant images in sleep when ears are closed during the day. They cannot escape the truth that your elevation is not negotiable. You must understand something deeper now. This was never simply about stopping you. It was about measuring you. Influence draws attention. Favor attracts examination. When you begin stepping into territory that shifts dynamics, people instinctively assess the threat level. The call was an assessment. They needed to evaluate how much ground you were gaining. And what unsettled them most was not your ambition, but your composure. You are rising without arrogance. You are advancing without noise. That quiet strength confuses those who rely on control. There was a moment during that conversation when someone asked, "What if they don't even know?" That question carried more weight than they realized. Because the truth is, you do not need to know every detail to be protected. You do not need to hear every whisper to remain secure. My covering over you does not depend on your awareness. It depends on my authority. And my authority is unmatched. But here is the twist you were never meant to discover. The person who felt convicted has already shifted their behavior in subtle ways. They are watching you now, not with suspicion, but with respect. They are noticing how you respond under pressure. They are measuring your integrity. And every time you choose grace instead of reaction, you are rewriting their perception. Without realizing it, you are turning a former skeptic into a future supporter. That is why I have been urging you to remain calm. That is why I have whispered to your spirit not to retaliate, not to confront, not to over-explain yourself. Silence in this season is not weakness, it is strategy. While others expected you to defend your name, I am elevating it without your effort. While they anticipated insecurity, I am strengthening your confidence quietly. Soon, an opportunity will surface publicly that connects directly to that call. When it appears, you may feel a flash of recognition in your spirit. Something will whisper, "This was what they were trying to control." And you will smile, not out of pride, but out of understanding. Because by the time it reaches you, it will no longer be filtered through their influence. It will arrive cleaner, bigger, and beyond their reach. You are stepping into a phase where hidden opposition transforms into visible validation. Where secret meetings give way to public acknowledgement. And when the one who felt convicted finally speaks, because they will, what they reveal will shift dynamics in ways you cannot yet imagine. But there is still one more layer to this story. Someone else overheard something after the call ended. Not the entire plan, but enough. And what they decide to do next will determine how quickly your breakthrough accelerates. Stay attentive. The next move is already forming. There was another presence in the background that day, quiet, unnoticed, dismissed. They were not meant to hear much. A passing comment. A half-muted sentence. A careless tone left lingering after the call supposedly ended. But even fragments can carry revelation when I choose to use them. What they overheard was incomplete, yet it was enough to awaken curiosity. And curiosity, when guided by me, becomes alignment. This person was never central to the plan. They were peripheral, considered irrelevant to the strategy. Yet I often choose those on the edges to shift outcomes at the center. After hearing that fragment, they began observing patterns. They noticed the subtle distancing. They recognized the coordinated hesitations. They connected the emotional atmosphere with the timing of the call. While others moved forward casually, this individual began piecing together a quiet puzzle. You did not see any of this unfolding. You were focused on your responsibilities, fighting personal battles, praying for clarity. But behind the curtain of your ordinary days, extraordinary recalibration was taking place. The one who overheard did not immediately confront anyone. Instead, they watched you. They examined your character for themselves. And what they discovered contradicted the narrative spoken against you. Integrity does not need advertisement. It reveals itself through consistency. In their private thoughts, something shifted. They asked themselves why someone like you would need to be subtly removed. Why someone so steady would provoke such strategic conversation. The more they analyzed, the clearer it became, this was not about your flaws. This was about your potential. And potential, when it threatens insecurity, often becomes a target. I was breathing upon their discernment. I was stirring their sense of fairness. I was awakening their courage slowly. Because timing matters. If they had spoken too soon, it would have been dismissed. If they had confronted recklessly, it would have backfired. So I instructed patience. I allowed observation to mature into conviction. And as their understanding deepened, so did their willingness to act. Meanwhile, subtle shifts began benefiting you. Small opportunities appeared. Unexpected affirmations surfaced. A conversation you thought would be tense turned surprisingly positive. That was not coincidence. That was influence redistributing itself. When one person in a system begins to question manipulation, the system weakens. When one observer refuses to accept distortion, the narrative fractures. There is something you must grasp deeply now. I do not merely defend you, I position witnesses. I allow truth to circulate quietly before it surfaces publicly. I let perception evolve naturally so that when revelation comes, it carries weight. You may not see applause yet, but validation is forming. You may not hear apologies yet, but acknowledgement is ripening. The one who overheard has already made a small but significant move. They asked an innocent question in a later meeting, just enough to disrupt the assumed agreement. The room shifted slightly. Eyes avoided contact. The confidence that once fueled the conspiracy thinned. That moment may have looked insignificant on the surface, but spiritually it was seismic. The foundation of quiet opposition cracked. And here is where anticipation builds. This same individual is about to be placed in a position where their voice carries greater authority. They will soon have influence over decisions that directly impact you. What began as accidental overhearing is becoming intentional advocacy. I am orchestrating placement. I am aligning timing. I am elevating allies without fanfare. You have felt recently that something is about to break open. A subtle tension mixed with expectancy. That sensation is not anxiety, it is transition. The cycle of hidden scrutiny is ending. The cycle of visible affirmation is beginning. You will not need to expose anyone. Exposure will occur naturally through unfolding outcomes. But I must caution you gently, do not let curiosity turn into obsession. Do not start scanning every room for betrayal. I revealed this not to distract you but to anchor you. Keep your eyes on your assignment. Continue refining your character. Continue deepening your faith. The greater your composure, the more powerful the contrast becomes. Soon, a conversation will occur that mirrors the first call, but with a different tone. The same names may be present. The same setting may exist. But this time, your name will be spoken with reconsideration. With respect. With acknowledgement of strength rather than suspicion. And the one who overheard will speak more boldly than before. When that moment happens, you will sense a release in the atmosphere. You will feel doors open without resistance. You will notice interactions become smoother. And you may never fully know how close you were to exclusion. That is the beauty of protection. You are spared details while still receiving outcomes. Yet there is still one final twist you have not considered. The original initiator of the call, the one who first questioned your standing, has begun experiencing unexpected resistance in their own path. Not punishment. Correction. What they attempted to orchestrate outward is now teaching them inward. And what happens next will not only secure your position, it will redefine theirs. Stay steady. The revelation is almost complete. The one who initiated that call has felt something they cannot explain. Doors that once opened easily for them now require effort. Conversations that once flowed smoothly now stall. Plans that seemed certain now encounter delay. This is not revenge. I do not operate through petty retaliation. This is revelation. When someone attempts to manipulate destiny outside of my will, they collide with resistance designed to awaken them. What they tried to coordinate in secret has triggered a mirror, forcing them to examine their own motives. They have begun questioning themselves quietly. Not publicly, not dramatically, but internally. Why did your progress disturb them? Why did your consistency feel threatening? Why did your name require strategy instead of celebration? These questions are heavier than they expected. Because the truth is rising within them, it was never truly about you. It was about insecurity. It was about comparison. It was about fear of losing control. You see, when I mark someone for expansion, it exposes the fragile foundations in others. Your growth revealed gaps they ignored in themselves. Your favor highlighted areas where they felt overlooked. Instead of confronting their own development, they attempted to limit yours. But I do not allow the advancement I ordain to be negotiated in hidden rooms. There is something powerful unfolding now. The initiator of that call will soon face a decision that directly intersects with your future. They will have an opportunity to either repeat the pattern of control or surrender to alignment. And here is where my sovereignty becomes undeniable. Circumstances will position them to choose differently. They will sense that resisting your rise is futile. They will recognize that opposing what I am blessing only exhausts them further. You have noticed subtle changes already. The tension feels lighter. The resistance feels less coordinated. The atmosphere feels less hostile. That is because internal battles are replacing external ones. What was once directed toward you is now turning inward within them. Conviction is dismantling pride piece by piece. But listen carefully, this is not a moment for triumph over someone else's discomfort. This is a moment for humility. Because the elevation coming to you will require grace. The same people who once doubted may soon support. The same voice that questioned may soon commend. And when that shift becomes visible, I need your heart steady. No bitterness. No gloating. Only quiet confidence rooted in me. The second conversation is approaching. It will not carry the sharp undertone of the first. It will be measured, cautious, reflective. Your name will be spoken again, but differently. Someone will acknowledge your resilience. Someone will mention your integrity. Someone will admit that perhaps the earlier concern was misplaced. It may not sound like a full apology, but it will mark a turning point. And then, unexpectedly, the initiator themselves will soften. Not dramatically. Not theatrically. But sincerely. They will suggest giving you space to grow. They will recommend including you rather than excluding you. They will shift from protection of their own position to recognition of your value. And those in the room will feel the change immediately. You may never hear about this second call directly. You may never receive a detailed report of how opinions evolved. But you will experience the outcome. An invitation will arrive without friction. A project will include your name without resistance. A decision will favor you without debate. And when it happens, something deep inside you will whisper, "This is the aftermath." I allowed the first call to reveal opposition. I allowed the silence to stir conviction. I allowed the overhearing to awaken advocacy. And now I am allowing correction to complete the cycle. What was never meant to be heard has become the foundation of your advancement. Understand this deeply. Secrecy often precedes elevation. Before public honor comes private testing. Before visible validation comes hidden evaluation. You are being measured, not just by them, but by me. How would you respond to subtle pressure? Would you remain faithful when unaware of scrutiny? Would you trust me without full explanation? And you did. Imperfectly at times, but sincerely. That sincerity is what I am rewarding. There is still one final layer you must prepare for. As your influence increases, new conversations will arise. Not all of them negative. Some will be filled with curiosity, admiration, even opportunity. But the lesson remains: stay anchored. Stay humble. Stay discerning. Do not be intoxicated by approval any more than you were discouraged by suspicion. If this message is resonating in your spirit, let it settle deeply. Let it remind you that unseen protection is active even when life feels ordinary. Let it reassure you that whispers cannot cancel what I have declared. And if you feel led, stay connected to this flow of revelation, because alignment is a journey, not a moment. The call that was never meant to be heard has already fulfilled its purpose. It exposed insecurity. It awakened allies. It corrected motives. And it confirmed your marking. Now prepare yourself. Because the next conversation spoken about you will not be secret. It will be celebratory.